So I get into my car one night. I have a fight with Anwar. And I think it's I like want to go clubbing, and I was in no state to go clubbing, and I decided I am going. And I think it would have been like just after midnight. And I drive into 3 parked cars. Three. When I didn't do things in small measures myself. Like 3 parked cars. I thank Jesus to this day. Nobody was in.
Sure.
Nobody was in my car. Nobody else was in my car, and that people were not sitting in those cars. Wrote off my car. Tow truck drivers arrive. The first thing they take is a selfie. Because they're fans. I'll never forget that. And the guys were like still nice to me. The cops arrived, and they were disappointed.
They knew who you were.
Yeah, they were just, the one guy was like gutted. He was like, wow, for you to become a statistic, this is not what I saw for you. Sure. Because the people also then treated you like that was the end. Obviously, because now you're showing everybody who you really are. That's the end. And you don't come back from that. And then I asked the driver, one of the tow truck drivers, I gave him my agent's number, and he tried to make some calls for me, and I got put into jail.
At that moment, did you feel it was the end?
What I thought at that moment was, because the tow truck driver that was taking selfies was, I thought, pull in your stomach, because that T-shirt that I had on had a terrible fabric, man. Some T-shirts make you look quiet, and other T-shirts, you look like uncle. The first thing I thought was, I was going to share this with a lot of people, like, look lekker. It could be your last PR shot. And I was so hammered that I didn't have a conscious thought process of, I didn't realize that how hectic this was. And when I got into the cell, I think I started to know, okay, this is real. And then by the next morning, it was communicated to me that it was headlines on every radio station in South Africa, and that it was put on every lamppost.
Front page.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, wow. So you come out of that, as you say, and it follows you. I think you spend a lot of time in shame, in absolute shame, because everybody's talking about it.
It's so public.
Yeah, it's so public. And the following month, a brand new show was starting at the Baxter Theatre, and the show was called Say Cheese. It's going to be my brand new work. Obviously, the theatre's in touch with Anwar, going, tell us about your plans forward. Is he ever going to perform again? And they have obviously a drunk driving stance that they don't take kindly to that. That's an understatement. Mm-hmm. So the decision was taken that the show will be done, and the reason that the decision was taken, the show would still go ahead, was 2 or 3 days after I come out of jail, the season gets sold out. Because
so you go viral
only
again?
Only Cape Town. Can people, because now every household is going, ons wil hoor wat hy sê
Tony
van
Soprano.
die. Yeah, but what happened? So we obviously had to change a lot of the stuff. So in terms of what I'm going to talk about. And I then, just before that, Say Cheese, I then just called a segment of the show. There was a venue in Cape Town called On Broadway. And where I told the whole record of how I got into the car, what I was doing, what led to it, what happened afterwards, what could have happened. And the show was called Crash. And I think if I didn't have that opportunity, it in many ways, I'd go for therapy as well, but it in many ways worked in conjunction with my therapy.
Okay.
Because I had the opportunity then to talk to people every night about what happened. And you're always amazed as to how many people have that secret that they travel through life with. Only when you go through it do people wait for you after the show and go, I haven't told anyone, I've done that, and I've been locked up. Came home after a few hours. So, and then I did work with Arrive Alive campaign. And
Okay, it's community service or something.
Well, I had to speak a lot more about what it is that they actually do.
Okay.
And how you don't necessarily want to get onto the wrong side before you can decide, And it changed my thinking completely in terms of just the basic thing of driving pissed. Because anybody would say to you, oh no, but everybody should know they won't drive drunk. No, I still see it. You're in circles where nobody who
100%.
drives drunk says they're drunk. Yeah. And she also and he also, they don't believe it.
Yeah.
So you've got to take them aside at Tiger's Milk and go, give me the keys, or we're going to be having a big confrontation here because I'm gonna physically have to take it from you.
Yeah.
And they look at you and they're standing and they speak really well and they go, I'm not drunk.
Yeah.
But you go,
Dude.
rather,
It's not worth it.
the Uber's going to cost you nothing.
Yeah.
In comparison with what what the cost was to me and what the cost still is to me. So now when I do shows overseas, you must get the form online.
Oh, that one.
Now that section, man.
You see, so it follows you
yes,
so.
yes. So last year we at Leicester Square Theatre, and I get to that section and I found the agent on that side. And I say, look, many years ago.
Of the 10 years you can get it
many years ago. And it was very interesting because one person who was working on the gig from our side in South Africa said, no man, that's like for Noah's Ark's time. There's no South African record of that. Don't. And then I speak to people who don't live in South Africa and they're like, mate, you got to put it in. Because the worst thing is when it pops up at customs, there's always some person who was a school prefect who ends up with a job at customs.
School prefect.
And the school prefect always just says, it's just Ryan driving under the influence, enter. Is your middle child Nicholas? So there's always one person who could check up, and they say it's worse for you when you don't. And it worked in my favor. So for our international tour last year, we just declared it with every country before we went, and of course they will check it out, and then they see it is what it was.
Yeah,
it was a long time ago. You went to jail. Because you've got the admission of guilt, fine. But I guess where my privilege comes in is no stand-up comedy agent in this country has ever asked me for my prison record. For this job, it's okay.
Yeah.
And when you say you got one, they're like,
yeah,
whoa.
Better, that makes you better at your job.
Guy, we need to pay him double. Like, Mark, you're getting your own dressing room, man. So it does follow you around. It's a horrible thing to happen to you, and it's an horrific thing when you've killed somebody else on that night, when you're driving drunk. So it's just a nightmare of a thing. And I feel so lekker now when I even get into my Uber Black. Even when you leave home, because you're not driving already in the back of the Uber. You're like, the guy's like, wow, the party started early. I said, yes, because you're bringing me home as well. So it's just you've got to grow up and you've got to take some responsibility, and a good position that you in is Ryan. I feel often you can tell people stuff, but if you're lecturing someone and you can say, I've been there, it does take on a different meaning for those people. And also, I will tell you, because I've experienced this, when you tell people that you were in jail, it makes you sexier.
Does it?
Yeah, and I know that you're in a committed marriage now, but it makes you more appealing to people, and you get like a rough edge. So